Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kind for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. But today, no videos, but we have to talk about some articles. And that's what we're going to do. But anyway, before we get started, welcome E2247, who's from everywhere. Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York, upstate New York. We also have Deb Denny. I think Deb Denny said she was from Michigan, the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, if I recall correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember the name of the town, though. We also have in the house Yvette Avery Herod, our beautiful lady from Atlanta, Georgia. Michael Rudnin is in the house from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard. Articles are just fine. Yes, we have to do it. Actually, let me tell you, I had a rough night last night. I was speaking earlier, and my wife went to. She got into a real bad bus accident where she thought she didn't get hurt a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, got whiplash and all of that, and she went back to work, no problem. But it turns out that it really hurt her. It really hurt. Bloomington, Indiana. Sorry about that. Bloomington, Indiana for Deb Denny. Eric Hayes from Atascocita and Kingwood, Texas, and of course our beautiful Alistair Waters from. She is from Conroe, Texas. Yeah, I'm a little bit quiet because I'm tired, real tired. I didn't sleep last night. Wife was going through a whole lot because after getting into the bus accident, it exacerbated the tendons in her neck, etc., which caused her lupus to attack the cells in her nerves, which caused a flare, which caused severe pain. The woman was in solid pain for days, and because of all of that and the compromised immune system, it turned into shingles, and she hadn't had her shingle shot, so now she's dealing with shingles and an antiviral to fight that. So it's been rough. The poor lady has been having a very, very hard time. So, had to be there giving her the medications. Every 4 hours, there was a different medicine to give or something like that. It was a difficult night. Anyway, and we have Tom C. from Brington, Michigan. Uh, Between Lansing and Detroit, Ann Arbor and Flint, Michigan. You're right there centered, huh? Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, let's see what else we got. Ouch, is what Deb Denny says. Anyhow, people are starting to file in. Folks, don't forget to give us that thumbs up. I only see one thumbs up, but maybe I'm seeing wrong because I probably need to refresh the screen. But please go ahead and give those thumbs up. That's how we got a few more, but please keep it going. Anyhow, let's see here. Uh, let me read the commentary first. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes from Houston. Jay Ray is in the house. Bless your dear wife, Egberto. Yes, Jay Ray. And Ray, you had some great commentary earlier this morning on KPFT. I always appreciate the commentary, and I love having you on both shows. That is great. Lee Grant is in the house. Lee's from Ray is from Third Ward, Houston, and Lee Grant is from Conroe, Texas. I remember, my mind is still working fine. I'm happy. I am very, very happy. Okay. All right. Continuing. Let's see. Alistair Waters says, sounding kind of quiet, brother. Well, you know why, Alistair. Let's see what else we got here. Tonight, Joe is sought to address must give voters a pithy list of very clear reasons to vote for Biden and not merely to vote against 45. Yes, I agree. But there's one thing I want to talk about the address that I think the media is trying to do something here. I want them to stop. The media comes out and said this is going to be Biden's most important speech, and he has to be great. And no, he does not. This is Biden. He cannot make any mistakes. That's not true. Trying to pin the entire success of an administration on a speech shows the shallowness of our mainstream media. I mean, it's not a speech that's going to change people's opinions. It's learning what the guy has done and learning whether the guy is capable of doing more. That's the bottom line. Whether the guy has done well and whether he has the capacity to do well going forward. And I think a lot of these polls are reflecting that they're looking at an old man and they think this old man cannot perform for another 4 years. And within that comes all these negative connotations in these polls. That's my belief, at least. I think if he was a good looking younger guy, the polls numbers would be through the roof because, I mean, Donald Trump has nothing to offer other than his cult, right? I mean, you ask Donald Trump, he goes ahead and he lies about the Biden's economy. And then you ask him, what will you do to make my life better? And Donald Trump can't give you an answer. What policy will you institute specifically? What specific policy will you institute to make the lives better for people? He can't answer that because the guy knows nothing but policy. All he speaks in is rhetoric. Biden can go out there and say, this is what I've done. I've increased the amount of monies that we provide to entice the building of microchips in America, thus creating more jobs in America. Of course, that dispels the notion that capitalism knows best, right? Because what it says is that capitalism screwed up so badly with the supply chain that government had to come to their rescue and say, okay, we will pay for you guys to start building more chips in the United States of America. Because capitalism screwed up so bad our supply chain. We had what the government has always done, rescue the corporate structure, but never there to rescue in until Joe Biden came around, until Obama came around. Obama with the Affordable Care Act, which still gave too much to the rich corporations, and of course Biden and Pelosi with the stimulus program that came during the last year of Trump's administration that Trump did not want, but she passed it and he signed it as long as his name could appear on a check so that people would believe he gave them a stimulus when he was completely against it. History, folks. And the problem is the media don't talk about these things, right? The mainstream media don't talk about these things. They talk about whether he can walk, whether he's old, whether he's walking stiff, as opposed to informing Americans as far as what each policy is from each person that's running. Donald Trump has none. Ask him specifically, what policy do you have for the average American citizen? I'm not talking about tax cut for the wealthy, tax cut for the corporations, reduce regulations for the corporations that ultimately harms the average American citizen. I'm asking you to ask the question, what policy? And you know what the mainstream media hasn't done? They hadn't done that. They put him on and he lies about an economy that we can show you the numbers. And sadly, it's not there. And sadly, it's not there. All right, let's continue. E22, or rather, let's see. E2, Michael responded to E22 by saying, the problem with the Biden Trump idea is that Biden isn't doing enough on voter rights, abortion rights, climate, Israel, Palestine. It should be understood that Trump would be actively harmful on all of those. Exactly. Bridge says, oh, damn, Egberto, so sorry about the shingles. Yep, she got shingles. All right, Tom C says, hi, all from Brington, Missouri. Not Missouri, Michigan. The crossroads between Lansing and Detroit, Ann Arbor and Flint, Michigan. All right, my brother. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Alyssa Waters says, greeting, E2247. And it seems like our Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain is in the house. Welcome, Melanie Keelan. Hi, great to have you here. All right, let's see. J. Ray says, bless your dear wife, Egberto. Thank you, my brother J. Ray. And E2247 repeats what he says often, which is very important that we get. silence is in effect complicity. Biden is complicit in the genocide in Gaza by not specifically saying what we have in Gaza is apartheid. What we have in Gaza is genocide. Thank you, E2247. Eric Hayes says electric cars release more toxic emission than petrol powered vehicles and are worse for the environment. Hmm. I have got to read that article. I have got to read that article when I get a chance because you know what? It is one of the least, it's one of the most ridiculous statements there is. It's so ridiculous. I'm going to see if I can scan it as I'm going through these. EV weighs 30% more than petrol cars, causing tires to wear out faster. The tire treads release toxic particles 400 times greater than exhaust emission. Oh, there you go. Of course, that's what they're going to do. You see how they operate? It's not true, but I'll take that at another time. Oh, it's a rubber that's scraping off the ground that is giving off more stuff than the car CO2 in the air. You guys are you guys are amazing. Amazing. All right, let's see. Look at Eric, bought into it. He says, he will stumble and bumble tonight. You mean like Donald Trump speaking a different language when he can't read the teleprompter? You mean like him not knowing who is running against? Who look, Americans think that Donald Trump is more apt to be president than Biden solely because of how the media covers Democrats versus Republicans, how they cover Biden versus Trump, and they should be ashamed of themselves. They should be completely ashamed of themselves. But that's life. I think that's why you have to use independent media and go through all other sources. Macaroni says, Eric, Daily Mail has a history of climate denial, not a good source for your information, which is very true. British MCP says, many do not realize how difficult it is for someone over becoming a stutterer, which is true. I have a good friend that when we grew up together, he was a stutterer, but later on he recovered from that. He still has slight bouts with it, but he does very, very well. And he's a very successful dude. Breed MCP says many do not realize. Oh, I read that one. Eric Hayes says, uh, answer a simple for reverse all economic policies now go back to pre-pandemic. No, that's not true. We are way past pre-pandemic. And let's also realize that Donald Trump was working on a Obama economy that all he was able to do was to wreck it with a tax cut to blow the budget up. Okay? Let's get our facts straight. It's not hard. The numbers are black and white. Alistair says, I love some people believe the executive branch of our government controls the nickel and diamond of Americans at the grocery stores. Exact. Oh, I am so glad you said that, Alistair Waters, because I'm going to, I tell you what, remember, I'm going to make sure to give credit when I start reading these articles because I want to point something out that's going to build upon what you just said, Alistair, which is very important. All right, let's see. Lee Grant says Trump will build a wall and deport illegals. Biden won't. All right, let's do that. Let's go with brother Grant. All right, Trump will build a wall. So Trump is going to take billions of dollars out of the Treasury to build a wall to kick out tax paying undocumented workers that prop up our social security system because they can't get their money out when they retire, that provide services in construction that Americans are incapable of doing right now, that picks many of our crops, that work in factories that these factory owners find a way to employ them. So Trump is going to round up all these people, throw them in concentration camps, and eventually deport them. And you look at that, Lee Grant, as something that's going to be positive. You know what? There are times that I wish that your dream come through. I wish I did this back in the Bush years. I wish your dream would come true because that is the easiest way to crash our economy and bankrupt Social Security. I mean, it's amazing that these people and you too, Lee Grant, your hate for undocumented workers and people of the other will have you make a decision that will cost those in this country jobs, that will depress our economy. But again, the people who you trust to give you your news, they look at you and they say, well, Grant ain't all that sophisticated. I think you are. You're here, but you allow others to have impact on your psyche, but it would be wrong. Look up what I'm talking about. Look up the amount of Social Security that gets paid into Social Security fund that will never be granted back to the undocumented worker that's been working for decades, and this has been happening for decades upon decades upon decades, and that's just money funding Social Security. And again, look at what happened in Florida. They can't find people to build these houses. Look what happened in Georgia. They can't find people to pick the peaches. Okay? So, let Trump get into power and let's see. Let him deport all these people. These people are hard workers, harder workers than born American citizens. Okay? Harder workers than born citizens. All right. Michael Rodden has a long one that because it's about the EV, I want to read. So here we go. Eric, it's interesting that EVs are heavier than gas guzzlers, resulting in more microplastic emissions from tires. But wouldn't this be the same correlation between sedans and SUVs? Yet you don't see that the right wing bubble talking about getting rid of light trucks from the roads. Science, the study conducted by Emissions Analysis was published in 2022 but has begun circulating again after being cited in the Wall Street Journal. It explains that the main difference between tailpipe and tire emissions is that most particulate emissions from the tire directly go into the soil and water, while exhaust negatively affects air quality. It reveals that the brakes and tires of electric vehicles release 1,850 times more particulate matter than modern tailpipes, which contains filters for reduced emission. Electric vehicles were also found to be 30% heavier than gas-powered vehicles, the cause the brakes and tire treads to wear faster, and standard vehicles releasing tiny toxic particles into the atmosphere. Virginia Tech professor Hesham Raka says the study is only partially correct. While electric vehicles are heavier, tires emitting more microplastics into the air could also be true for sedans versus SUVs. Raka further noted that it is very challenging to determine the difference between the amounts of microplastics released from the EV tire treads and gas-powered vehicles. You must separate the microplastic already in the air from the source, which is coming from the tires. Raka and his Virginia Tech colleagues are conducting field tests to determine the amount of microplastic emitted from electric cars versus gas cars. They use traffic simulators to mimic an urban setting. It reported that he does not expect a major difference between electric and gas powered vehicles since they have not been measured yet. However, he expects the difference to be about 20%. This does not mean people should avoid using electric vehicles because they are more efficient at zero emissions. But it must be considered that the new mode of transportation also generates a lot of carbon dioxide when charging. And that is only because charging, right? It comes from, I think it means it released carbon dioxide from charging because either the power plants are using standard coal burning power plants. I don't know if the battery itself, and I don't know this whether it's so or not, if the battery as it's charged releases CO2. But even if the battery releases CO2 as it is charged, one thing we have to remember, but I don't think it could because we're using the batteries that we're using are not nickel cadmium, but I think it is not NiCad, lithium. So I don't know that that is true, but whatever the case is, uh, what they forget to tell you is when you release carbon dioxide into the air and the carbon mixes with water, there are certain things that you get, like in the ocean, carbonic acid, right? That the ocean is being bleached while you may have plastic leached into the ground. If the plastic is inert, no big deal, right? But anyway, that is just another spoiler. All right, Egberto, the problem is the car's weight resulting in entire emissions. So will the right wing bubble ask to restrict SUVs and light trucks? Of course not. They are never consistent, which are heavier and have more emissions due to the weight plus the tailpipe. But no, because you can never expect right wing pundits to be consistent. Which comment should I have read the whole one? Which one should I have read the whole one? Breach. Let me hear it. Okay, yeah, I saw the article. Haven't had a chance to read it. Well, I have it on the screen right now. If I get a chance and find it, I'll take a look. I suspect there are a few caveats. Of course, there are caveats. You know that, my brother Woods. All right, Deb Dennis said a closed border would decimate the Texas economy, cause millions to starve, leave children unsupervised and public space. That's why I said get rid of the undocumented workers and watch how fast people complain about inflation and all of that. Because again, you want your kid taken care of. While an undocumented worker may be willing to do it for $50 a night, that child is going to say, okay, $25 an hour. All right, be careful you get what you pay for. All right, let's see what else we got here. Lee Grant says we don't need MS-13 or nor Venezuelan gangster here. You can't just open the border. That is the biggest scare tactic there is. Oh, MS-13 from El Salvador is going to come into America. Let me just tell you, they're already here. And they don't come to America through the border. They come to America by plane. Just to let you know, MS-13, a lot of them are coming by plane. Most people who stay in America are done how? By plane. Okay. All right. Let's continue. Egberto, conservatives rarely consider the ramification of what their political policies will affect in the real world. If deport all the illegals actually became public policy, that would do so much damage to our country. I swear, when conservatives begin to hate, they don't ever think things through. And what's so funny is because progressives and Democrats, by design, think through everything, sometimes too damn much, we always save their asses. We always, I repeat, we always save their asses. And why is that again? Because we're thinkers. We are thinkers. All right, let's continue. Para ver. Michael Segberto, the thing about EVs is that battery technology are rapidly advancing. The idea that EVs will be heavier is a temporary problem that will be remedied soon enough while SUVs and light trucks pollute so much more than EVs. Meantime, coal powered remains the leading cause of pollution. All transportation combined isn't even close yet. Such focus isn't clear. Well, that's what they do. They love to mislead and, they believe in people. All right. Bruce Pollard said, not from my sun power, not from lithium batteries. Still, the pollution comes from building the stuff. Got it. Got it. What I didn't know, Bruce, if that there was some chemical, because charging a lithium battery is a chemical reaction, right? And I didn't know if that chemical reaction did release CO2 or not. But I've never did any research on that. So thanks for correcting that. Eric K says, love driving my loud truck. So go ahead and do it, Mr. Troglodyte. All right, Michael says, Egberto, thank you for reading out that long one. Out. Yes, it was worth reading out so that the conservatives might think for a minute. H2O plus CO2 equal H2CO3, carbonic acid, I believe, right? H2CO2, yeah, it's H2CO3, carbonic acid. All right, all directly under control. Yep. Bree says, Egberto Willies, this one. Many do not realize how difficult it is for someone overcoming being a stutterer to speak to millions. Says something about character, I agree. Says something about that those who make fun of them, I agree as well. Eric K says, Barbara Jordan is the one who should have pushed for Southern policy. Huh? Why? Why? Bruce Fowler said it's almost a wash unless they discover safer nuclear. Actually, and not only, well, you can't say a wash if like, I think we are generating near 20% of our electricity from solar. So in the aggregate, it's still better, right? Bruce also said best recycling is reuse. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. Michael says, replying to Bruce, safer nuclear is already available. It's called thorium molten salt reactors, which they were put up for consideration. The only reason we don't have nuclear power is that people fear it, not realizing that any single coal-fired power plant emits more radioactive waste over its lifetime than all nuclear power plants and all nuclear accidents combined. Lithium is poison, and that's why you take lithium sometimes when you're deranged, right? So I guess it's poison. It can clear dementia. Oh my God, I'm sleepy. All right, Eric K says Mel Tillis never stuttered when singing. Go figure. I don't. I think singing has a way of eliminating stutter, but don't quote me on that. But I think it does. Michael Dolan says, I'm a pro nuclear green. I am too. I believe that we have to throw the whole kitchen sink at forestalling global warming acceleration. I agree. Bridge MCP says, love guys that drive big, loud trucks and some hang testicles on them. Now they drive a drag truck. Have had it. Oh, Bridge, I think you're trying to allude to something there, but I'm not going to get on. I am not going to go there, Bridge. I am not going to go there, Bridge. I am not. Paul Fleming says, in the first 5 years of the Trump tax law, Bank of America saw $139 and $39 billion in profits, yet their effective tax rate was a measly 3.8%. To top it off, they received 23.9 billion in corporate tax subsidies. America has socialism all after all, but it's only for corporations. You see, and they did that because they know that people are not going to pass stuff for the average American citizen. They may cheat us out of those few measly dollars they give us, while they just throw money at corporations who build these 2,000-pound bombs and charge us $8,000 or $16,000 for something that costs $500, right? Come on, man. Let's get real. Let's get real. All right. In the first 5 years of Trump tax law, Bank of America saw 139 billions in profit, yet their effective tax rate was measly 3.8%. The top it To top it off, they received 23.9 billion in corporate tax subsidies. America has socialism after all, but it only for corporations. And it was desolate in the Democratic voting in the Democratic primary. I think I was the only Democrat voting or Democrat of color voting there. It was a strange, strange feeling when the lady when I came in, she kind of hid the Biden ticket, right? And so she just kind of put it out there, expecting me to grab it. I'm like, oh, I've got one already, but it's just so damn amazing. It's so damn amazing. Oh my God, my eyes are starting to close, but Paul Fleming says, if you're a democracy and you cannot protect yourself from those who would undermine you and those who would reveal you, you're not worthy of the name Cheryl Phil once the build defenses of the U.S. democracy are eroding. Tup, tup, tup. Yes, yes, yes. All right, let's go to our first para ver article that I want to tackle, and it says it's one with Paul Krugman. I want to bring that over here, um, and I want to read what Leopold said. Leopold says title of the article was Paul Krugman. I better put it on the screen. Bear with me, folks. Like I said, I'm a little bit uncon. Anyway, Paul Krugman remains blind to Wall Street's war on workers. What the Nobel Prize winning economists and prominent columnists fail to see again and again is that many, if not most, rural mass layoffs in the last 4 decades are the result of out and out greed by corporate interests and the investor class. But you have to go one step further, because who controls the investment markets if not the government, who can set the rules of maximal operation, right? But no, that's not what they do. That's not what they do. It's not easy for continuing. It's not easy for a labor educator like me to take on Paul Krugman, a Nobel laureate and New York Times columnist. Krugman is a liberal par excellence, a Keynesian who is trying to counter America's slide into autocracy. which is why someone has to hold him accountable for failing to take on Wall Street. Exactly. Krugman is puzzled by working people who have been economically devastated, yet are falling for charlatans who talk a big game of reinvent or resentment, but do little to help them. The devastation, he argues, is caused by technological change, which has made America as a whole richer, but has reduced economic activity. You reduce economic opportunities in rural America. Maybe rural class voters are growing sour on the Democrats because the Democrats are growing sour on them. It's a timeless story, he tells us, which new technologies replacing people in farming, mining, manufacturing, right? Rural areas, rural areas. So again, we have to be cognizant of this. So, what Krugman fails to see again and again is many of which most rural mass layoffs in the last 4 decades are a result of Wall Street's outgreed. The Greek was enabled by financial sector deregulation starting in the Reagan years and accelerating during Clinton's 2 terms. Wall Street kills jobs not because of the technological advances, but because it's easier to make money by extracting the wealth of others to your full. So therefore, uh, anyhow, we'll continue this in a minute. I'll make sure and go over some of our things that are people writing. All right, I'll get those after. All right. Since then, or rather, deregulation, however, created a virtual gold rush of Wall Street hustlers who have extracted wealth from corporations, creating an army of laid off workers and devastated communities. Leveraged buyouts, which were infrequent before 1980 because of regulatory controls, have become ubiquitous. That is a shame. It has become ubiquitous. By the way, folks, I am taking calls. If you have a comment, a statement, something you want to have the audience listen to, talk about, give us a call at 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. I would love to hear from some of you. I will repeat it una vez más. One more time. 281-823-7747. Y ahora lo voy a repetir en español. Es el 281-823-7747. Repitiendo a 281-823-7747. Llámenos. Give us a call. And we answer you in English or Spanish. Hey, so that will be a good thing that we're talking about, folks. A good thing that we're talking about. Anyhow, continuing with the article because I want to get to the crux of the article. Forbes' observation is confirmed by studies that show that leveraged buyouts cost jobs. Another one, I don't know why people won't see that. A leveraged buyout says, I will take the capital in your company, right? Borrow money on the capital, right? Pocket the cash. In effect, what they normally do is they buy the company, borrow the money based on the assets of the company or the capital of the company, and then use that as a collateral. It's horrendous. It is a way to rape a company. And why won't you believe that when you have to cut the cost to pay back your loan, you're not going to cut it from employees? I remember with Toys R Us, when Mitt Romney was a vulture capitalist. Mitt Romney went into I think it was Toys R Us, not Mitt Romney, but Bain Capital, went into Toys R Us. Toys R Us was a successful toy company making money, doing just fine. They look at that company as, whoa, look at how much assets these guys have. So what do? We go ahead and leverage the company. We go ahead and buy the company, borrow the money to buy the company, use the company as extract the money out of the company to pass it on to the shareholders and the everybody else, right? And who gets left holding the bag? The people. And that's what Les Leopold is trying to explain. The economy is doing great. Tonight, Biden is going to talk about how all these numbers were hitting the numbers GDP high, Wall Street high, all of this stuff is high. But most people will not partake of said spoils. And that's what we have to teach our MAGA and our right wing. While you're supporting policies that support a few, you're screwing yourself and everybody else. That's what's happening. That's what Bain Capital did to Toys R Us. Get it in here. Once you understand this, you're no longer a Republican or a Democrat. You're no longer a Trumpist. You're no longer any of these things. You're simply saying, I want to make sure to make things possible for my family, for your family, for everybody else. Continuing with the article, how do these companies pay for those buybacks? Think about it. I just talked about. Well, let me read both articles. Another Wall Street weapon is a stock buyback. Until 1982, when buybacks were deregulated, no corporation could use more than 2% of its profits to buy back its own shares. All right, we should be back. All right, here's what occurs now. Uh, how do these companies pay for those stock buybacks? The game is now on the Walt Disney Company, where activist investors, actually short term stock sellers, led by Neil Peltz, are trying to force Disney to move wealth to them. A Peltz recently put it fundamentally and crudely, we want the stock to go up. Roy Disney understands exactly what that means. These activists must be defeated. They're not interested in preserving Disney magic, but stripping it to the bone to make a quick profit. Stripping. Remember, I told you that the people who make money in this country are not people who produce anything. They don't produce a service. They don't produce a value. They don't produce healthcare. They don't produce widgets. They just use money, capital that they have, to make money on capital. And we have to stop rewarding it. So I told you guys a few weeks ago that you should watch a program that was made in Appalachia. I don't remember the name of the guy, the blogger who goes out there and he interviews people in Appalachia. And he gave a whole, he gave you a walkthrough various parts of Appalachia and how these people live, right? And these people are who used to be 60, 70% supporting of a Democratic president like Bill Clinton, and now Biden lost it by double digits, right? How do you go from that to that, right? Well, listen to this. Kruger's take on coal country is shaped by a similar technological myopia. Consider Mingo County, West Virginia, population, and this is, I think the guy covered this one as well too. But I want you to listen to this in detail. Consider Mingo County, West Virginia, population 22,573. It is 95.9% white, a very poor county in a very poor state that ranks 48th out of 50 states. And Joe Manchin State in West Virginia, right? Joe Manchin State, the crook. 50 states in education and dead last in infrastructure. All right. Mingo County's household median income is less than half the national average. In the early 20th century, Mingo County was the epicenter of the Great Coal Wars. After Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his New Deal embraced labor unions, Mingo County coal workers and the United Mine Workers saw their wages and benefit rise and safety conditions improve. Why? Because they were unionized. They became loyal Democrats who always fight for unions. Regarding Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton with 69.7% of Mingo County vote in 1996. In 1996, Appalachia, West Virginia, went for Clinton, this county, by 69.7%. Why did Mingo County voters switch away from Democrats? Rising racism doesn't explain why Barack Obama received more than 3 times the voter share in 2008 than Joe Biden did in 2020. And then Barack Obama got 42.1%. I mean, not a winning number, but not a shabby number either. Krugman correctly identifies the decline of coal jobs as the likely cause for workers abandoning the Democratic Party. our research finds that in 1996, approximately 3,300 Mingo County workers were employed in the coal industry. By 2020, that number dropped to 300, more than 90%, right? This was the largest loss of coal jobs in any county in the country. Krugman once again places the blame on inevitable technology change. In this case, strip mining. He's right that mountaintop removal requires far fewer workers than traditional underground mining, but does it really reflect technological progress? No. It's just using existing technology to dynamite and big truck to tear down the land into an open pit and pollute everything below. Shouldn't have been allowed in the first place. Progress is not. So here we go. Here we go. The people that supported removing the top of a mountain to extract the coal easily and supposedly put it back together, but they never do in the right way. Uh, they claim that it was more efficient for them to do it that way. Efficient for whom? Efficient for the corporation to take the coal out of the ground in big swats, cheaper than putting men in holes and taking the coal out through shafts, right? But the cost was all that overfill and spill over into the valleys, polluted the streams, caused people to get sick downstream because of all the heavy metals and radiation in all that filler that they remove, right? And ultimately, while the efficiency for the corporation is there, the people downstream are going to be getting sick. And then who pays for their illnesses? They pay for their own damn illnesses. And who are some of these people getting sick? Some of the same people that were laid off from these corporations. So you lay me off to do strip mining and you kill me by allowing the junk out of your mind to go into my streams. Efficient for the corporation, but not efficient for the average human being living in these valleys, in these areas. That's what we talk about. Krugman doesn't seem to realize that what he's calling, technological improvements are causing the. No, that wasn't a technological improvement. That was well, it wasn't. There are other complex market forces such as Eastern coal giving away its competitive pressures to Western coal, the rise of fracking, and a general move away from coal pollution as cause of job loss. But even as these markets shifted, Wall Street feasted on the industry carcass, doing all it could to deprive coal miners of their retiree benefits. And you remember that? While corporations are doing fine, they offer retirements as incentives and they sometimes fund it, sometimes they don't. But as soon as they're going out of business or something, you know what they do? They turn it over to the who? Government. So they don't pay into these funds, turn the retirement over to the government, and if you get 30 cents on the dollar, you are lucky. Corporations, the biggest welfare recipients in this country. All right. So Krugman is quick to point out that the richer areas of the country have provided the tax dollars to subsidize a wide range of programs to support rural America. He writes, there are huge de facto transfer of money from rich urban states like New Jersey to poor, relatively rural states like West Virginia. And indeed, Mingo County offers an extensive list of government services on its website. Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, all these different programs where the government gives you money. But that's not what people want. Yeah, it's great to take this money for a short term while you're transitioning. It's okay to have these backbone services, but what people want are jobs. What people want are jobs. Okay? And that is what we have to understand. What people want are jobs. So, what is missing? Socially useful jobs for thousands of coal miners who are willing and able to work. And that is where Democrats have failed. Democrats have said, okay, corporations, you go out there and you screw people, and we will be there to provide social services so that people can survive. But they miss one important point. The government could do more. Let's stop for a minute. Republicans, on the other hand, Republican policymakers, they say let the market take care of everything. So these corporations do what they need to do. They get out of town, they leave. Doesn't matter that they receive tax subsidies or whatever. They just leave town and to hell with the people who are left behind. Democrat says, let's take care of the people who are left behind. But both of them are wrong. But the Republicans get a chance to demagogue because they, okay, coal is no longer efficient. All right. So they go out there and they say, oh, those people who want green energy are costing you your jobs. No, the corporations, after realizing that coal is no longer viable, they're the ones costing your job. But you see, the blame gets put onto government. And over again, the demagogues in the Republican Party are able to blame others, other factors that's real. Now think about if the government said this, okay, there are no more coal mines in West Virginia. The one thing about West Virginia and all these back countries of West Virginia, it is utterly beautiful. It is beautiful. Suppose the government says, okay, what we are going to do now is create subsidies for corporations who, because we don't want to run all this stuff, right? We don't want to have a government running all these companies in that where the capitalists have left because they can't make the kind of dollars they want to make. We don't want to just be a government creating companies. But what we can do is instead we can create incentive to bring corporations into there. I mean, Appalachia would make some beautiful resorts, beautiful resorts. I mean, it's just beautiful. So you could say, we want to create companies that are in the hospitality business. We could also say we're going to give manufacturers of microprocessors, meaning things that are not digging the earth or whatever, the ability to move into these areas, and they'll get this type of a subsidy. And also we will do retraining of people in that area so they can come and run the machines in a semiconductor factory or something like that. All these ingenious ways that government can play a part, right? But they don't. And you know why? Because the right people aren't getting greased. Wow, I didn't realize I was going to take this much time on this issue. So I'm going to leave this alone because I think I got to where I wanted. This is what's called end state capitalism. All right. And what we're seeing here is that, like I've said, capitalism is not a sustainable economic model. And the reason it's not a sustainable economic model is that it creates humongous disparities by design. The people who have capital can grow their wealth at, 7, 8, 10% or more, while the people who don't have capital can grow their wealth or not grow it at all. What that constantly means is that you have the people with capital eating everybody else. They're eating everybody else. That pie, if that pie is expanding on average at 3 to 4% per year, but the capitalist pie part of the economy is expanded at 7% a year, that 7%, the economy is closed. The economic circle is closed. So that part of the wealth that they're accumulating is at your expense. It's at your expense. That's just a mathematical fact. And that means that the model is completely and entirely unsustainable and will ultimately crash in itself. And it has crashed many a time. And what we've done is inflated the dollar, inflated things to make it give the semblance of it not being the walking dead. But capitalism is the walking dead right now, whether people want to accept it or not. I gave you the simple mathematical formula. It is simple as heck why it is unsustainable over an extended period of time. It is just a mathematical impossibility. All right. Michael Rudden says, interesting. The article doesn't mention automation. Actually, it implies automation when it talks about the mountain removal. Generative AI, the article does mention AI as well, and that half of all jobs will fully be automated within the next decade. How whether we thrive to starve with determined large by who owns and profits from the machines. Well, and that's where I'm saying the composite. If you take a look at what's going on in our system, the composite result, right, If you want to be honest about anything, the reality is that you cannot look at AI and somehow come to the belief that AI is not generated by us all, because AI is actually the composite knowledge of all of us, and therefore the profits from it, the efficiency from it, should be redistributed to us all. So good. I'm glad you mentioned that, Redden, because we need to talk about that maybe sometime in a fuller subject. All right, I'm scrolling down. I'm scrolling down. Lee Grant, how will Biden spin genocide in Gaza tonight? I don't know, Lee. I don't know. I mean, he's giving you a talking point right there, didn't he? Right? He's giving you a talking point right there. Paul Fleming says Special Counsel Jack Smith has spoken to another mystery witness in the Mar-a-Lago classified document case against Donald Trump. Michael Rennan, this article is worth reading on your own after the live stream, even though it's missing the critical part of automation. I thought I had read it in there. Maybe it's the other article that I mentioned that has it in there. Persuasive Barry, welcome aboard. There are lots of wealth moving into these mountains. Yep, yep, yep. All right, let's see. Let's see what else we've got here. Deb Denny says, what people perceive as inflation is actually corporate greed. That's why we talk here about we don't talk about the inflation rate. We talk about the corporate greed rate, the CGR, corporate greed rate. It's not inflation. I mean, everything that caused the prices to go up had everything to do with the corporations, nothing to do with government. I know they like to put it that way, and the media would have you believe that, but we can go through the sequence of events that led to inflation, and very little of it has anything to do with government. Everything has to do with people saying, hey, they got money, we're going to take it away from them. It's that easy and simple. Uh, it is called reclamation. Reclamation, folks, it's like what they like to call it, but the truth of the matter is, by the time they dump all the filth over the mountain, and they have all the chemicals in that filth, meaning the radiation that occurring internal in the mountain that would otherwise have been exposed, it is there, bro. It is there. All right, run this as a thought. Technological process when it comes to mining. I mean, we could wrangle a metal-rich asteroid, drag it into orbit. If we ever do this, our society would rapidly change towards a post-scarcity society with nearly no pollution in comparison the what we are currently doing with mining. So it is interesting, right? It is very, very interesting. Good statement there, my brother. Good statement there. All right. Persuasive Barry says they get sick because legislators regulate not deregulation in favor of big oil and chemical. That is very much and so true. Michael Renz, Egberto, what people want are jobs with living wages and universal health care. That's what they want. Nothing more, nothing less. They don't want a giveaway. They don't want just people giving them things. They want something worth having. Love ZTL News. You know what? You had told me about that. You should send me a link. I need to try that out. I think you had mentioned that before. Egberto, late stage capitalism or end stage capitalism? What's the trigger for the shift? Actually, it's just a tipping point. When and which is where we're at right now. The tipping point is, look, if you take a look at a hyperbolic curve, right? You take a look at that curve. It takes a slow. I should also say is it parabolic or hyperbolic? Let's just go with a geometric progression, right? The elevation starts slowly, and then it almost gets to a vertical. I think that is hyper I think that is hyperbolic. I got to look it up, hyperbolic versus parabolic. But anyway, you'll see that happen, right? So, and we are there. That's where we're at right now. Professor Dr. Richard Wolf would tell you that, and he's told us a whole lot about that several times. Let's see what else we got here. What else we got here before I got, man, this went pretty quickly. I'm just Amanda Barnes is in the house just to give you a little picture of what alternative is. Drill, baby, drill. Erosion of the EPA the funding of investment into renewables. At present, the U.S. is leading the way in this sector that is tackling anthropogenic global warming, erosion of worker safety measures in OHS. By comparison, Biden increased the minimum wage, reduced student debt, delivered on reduced charges for pharmaceuticals. The first home buyers grant, rental assistance is all designed to help young people. Just last week, Biden said that multiple billions would be spent on production of microprocessors here instead of Taiwan. And shouldn't it have been capitalism who did it? Nope, it had to be government. And creating 10,000 jobs. We already have a 50-year low in unemployment. Ms. Harris has been working tirelessly for women's rights over their productive choice and fair and equal voting rights, which have been pared back by Republican legislators and judiciary for multiple decades. Heather Cox, Richardson below, the choice is obvious. Thank you for bringing that to us, Amanda Barnes. Thank you for being here, Amanda Barnes. Look, we're out of time. We're out of time. I didn't get to read everything. I didn't realize I was going to spend. I'm going to finish this subject and reopen this subject at KPFT tomorrow morning because I think it's something that we need to explore in the context of the speech this tonight. Anyway, I got to get out of here. But before I get out of here, folks, I want to remind you I'm going to go over by 1 minute or so. Before I get out of here, I want to remind folks to please support the program. How can you support the program? Let's tell you how you can support the program. Oops, let's go here. You can support the program by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. Again, I repeat, politicsdoneright.com/support. And how do we do that? I am going to throw that into this feed right now. Here it is. politicsdoneright.com/support. You can also support us by subscribing to our newsletter. Look, our newsletter is free, but for those who subscribe, read all our books, my 5 books, you'll be able to read that free of charge as long as you're a subscriber. And by the way, my new book is out. Here it is. And the title of the book is what again? Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism didn't stop my smile. Hope our journey forward. Please go ahead and get that book. I would love for all of you to purchase the book. It'll help us do what we must do. It'll help us get all we have to get done, right? I mean, this costs a lot, what I'm doing. It has costed my entire retirement or most of it. So now it's all trying to get these things through my books, my articles, my website, etc. because, this is so much more important. This is so much more important. So please support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/books to get some of our books, or go to politicsdoneright.com/support. A lot of ways to support us. Become a patron, become a subscriber to Facebook, become a subscriber to YouTube. A lot of different ways. Just go to politicsdoneright.com/support, and it gives you all the ways in which you can support our program, or go get my books. And this is only one of 5 books that I have out there. And again, any subscriber to our newsletter, read the book free of charge. Any subscriber to Patreon, read our books free of charge. So if you subscribe via Patreon, if you subscribe via any one of these ways, you get to read all our books. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.